Hello everyone, this is Beastly Eel with another episode, and on today's episode we're going to be talking about my top 10 alien races. So the qualifications for this is it has to be something I either played, watched, or know about, and also just for the sheer fact of coolness for me. Powers do take into consideration, and I will be talking about notable specific ones of their race that we might know of. But overall, I'm going to be talking about the race as a whole, not so much as the individual, just so you're aware on that. So, might as well get right down to the countdown. We're going to start off with number 10. Now, number 10 is actually going to be a race in the Marvel Universe, and they're called the Cree. Now, for those diehard Marvel fans, they know them from the comic books. But for those of you who might only know Marvel through the movies, we've actually seen them in the movies as well, specifically in Captain Marvel. They were the race that took Vers, aka Carol Danvers, in and kind of train her to fight for them. So they're an alien race that looks very similar to humans. They do slightly look different. Apparently their blood is blue, which is what it is. They're about twice as strong as humans. They're a empire making race. They like to conquer other worlds. Specifically, the two races that they fight, well, the big one actually, I should say, they were actually fighting in Captain Marvel, which were the Skrulls. But these people, I mean, they're military made. They're on this list because they are powerful, but they're also very human-like, and they show just how bad humans are, even though they aren't actually human. A notable Cree member is Captain Marvel. He was the one in the comics who gave Carol Danvers her powers. So in the comic books, she got her powers because of him, and she became then Miss Marvel. But in obviously the movie, it was slightly different, and Marvel was not a hero, nor was he the one that gave her powers. He kind of just trained her. So that's why the Kree are number 10 on this list. So we're moving right on to number 9. So number 9 on this list is actually a alien race from a video game. For those of you who play Halo will know this as the Flood. So the Flood is apparently a parasitic race. So what they do is apparently they infect sentient hosts that have significant cognitive abilities. Basically, they go for people or creatures that can think for themselves, take over their body, and basically that's how they reproduce. And that's how they've conquered and taken over so much. Apparently in the Halo universe, they took over most of life at one point. They're also surprisingly, I don't want to say intelligent because that's not necessarily the right word, but they use their primitive instincts more likely to kind of go after their prey and convert them into more of the Flood. So it's definitely a different take on an alien race, I know, where the others are kind of just create their own way, meaning like they kind of do what they need to do to kind of team up together to then make more of them. But this one, they actually need completely different races and to create the Flood, which is definitely different. But it's on this list because they're cool, but they're also just able to take over so easily because of their just ability of just spreading like a disease, because they are parasitic, which is again why they're on this list too, because the fact that they are able to expand to so many different galaxies because of that. So let's move on right on to number 8. So number 8 on this list are the Eternals. Now the Eternals I'm talking about are specifically the ones that are on Titan. What the Eternals are basically celestial beings that have these amazing abilities that kind of oversee the universe. Now, granted, that's not their job. They live on a planet and they kind of do what they need to do. But they have super strength, super speed. Each individual one kind of has their own little ability, um, for the most part. I mean, some of them don't always. Um, and the reason why this group gets brought up is because they normally stay out of trouble, which is why they're low on this list. But because of the Eternals, they created one of the most dangerous and powerful Marvel villains of all time, which is Thanos. Now, Thanos is not your typical Eternal because he was born on Titan. Titan being a planet where two Eternals exiled from their place went to Titan and repopulated. And unfortunately, Thanos was born, but Thanos was a mutant, had a mutant ability, like he was the mutant gene inside of him, and being an Eternal. So he was well off the charts of power. So because of that, that's why this race is on this list, because how can you not have the race that created Thanos? Now, other things that they have is apparently longevity. They don't technically have immortality, because they can technically die, but they don't seem to die of old age. But there are ways that they do die. They're not on this list they're not on the list higher because they're kind of just there. They don't really do much. They're idolized as gods, but don't do much of anything. They kind of stay out of the loop. We're obviously going to see more about them in the MCU when the Eternals movie comes out this year, but for the most part, other than that, we really don't know much about them for the most part, in the sense of other than creating Thanos. So that's number 8. So we're moving right on to number 7. Now, number 7 on this list is from Marvel as well, and they're the Skrulls. Now, the Skrulls I talked about a little bit earlier when we were talking about the Cree, but these guys are on the list because for actually many reasons. They're a cause of so many problems for Marvel characters that you wouldn't believe. So their race is a bunch of green alien creatures who have the ability to shapeshift to anybody they've ever seen before, which causes a problem in the Marvel universe, because there's even a story arc called The Secret Invasion, where the Skrulls kind of come into Earth to get away from one of their enemies, to commandeer people's lives so they can feel safe. It caused a huge uproar. In fact, they even took the identities of superheroes. So it caused a whole bunch of problems. They're on this list because they are a conquering group as well. They try to anyway. They definitely have a lot of advanced technology, and their shape-shifting abilities are amazing. They're also a military. They have a decent military, but the other reason why they're on there is because of their scientific ability as well. I mean, they were able to create the Super Skrull, which was basically their emperor, if I remember correctly, that was experimented on, who then got the powers of the Fantastic Four, all 4 of them combined. So just seeing that in general is just awesome. And the fact that you never, being in the Marvel universe, never knowing if you're actually talking to a Skrull or not, because, well, how could you know when they look exactly like your friend and act just like them? That's why they're on this list, and I definitely enjoy them, even though they are kind of one-dimensional at times. Oh, we're hiding, so we're going to transform ourselves into somebody else. We're going to be mischievous. And that's kind of what brings them down a little bit on my list. But they at least made the list, and they're definitely higher than many of the others, which is why they're on here. So we're moving right on to number 6. Okay, so number 6 on this list is actually from an anime. One of my favorite animes of all time, which is Dragon Ball. So it has Dragon Ball Z, and Dragon Ball Super. We don't talk about GT too much for obvious reasons. If you're not aware of why, then I am happy for you. But anyway, this particular race is it was first introduced, I believe, in the Saiyan saga, but they actually go to this planet in the Frieza saga, which happened to be the Namekians. Now, the Namekians, we've met two in the very beginning, which were Piccolo and Kami. Kami being the guardian of Earth, and Piccolo being the bad guy. Because apparently, to be the guardian of Earth, you must expel all your evilness to be able to be the guardian of Earth. Because apparently, that's logic in anime. So they're more of a spiritual race. They are considered to be, there's the potential, and it has not been confirmed, that they are the lowest form of Kai. Now, Kai being deities. Deities that kind of rule over the space and time. We know that with King Kai, but the thought is that the Namekians are the lowest form of Kai. And another reason why a lot of people think this is because they have the ability to create what's called Dragon Balls, which if you gather all 7, you get to make any wish you want. Granted, based on which one you get determines what you're going to get. So like we have the Earth one, which was just one wish once every year. Only if you captured all 7 Dragon Balls. Namek, it was 3 wishes, and if I remember correctly, it was 1 Namekian year, which is shorter than a regular Earth year, I believe. But anyway, the reason why they're on this list is because they're definitely more spiritual, but at the same time, they also have the potential of being a powerful fighter race. I mean, Piccolo is by far the strongest warrior that they've ever had. And their unique ability to actually sync and fuse with each other to create more powerful warriors. So Piccolo was a powerful Namekian warrior to begin with, was able to get himself strong enough to match the Saiyans that were introduced in the first story arc of Dragon Ball Z. And then on Namek, he was able to fuse with Nail, who was another warrior, which increased his power significantly to be able to fight Frieza in his second and third form. Third form, he got his butt kicked, but was able to go that far. Then fused with Kami, who was his evil self, which then made him strong enough to fight Cell. So they're the potential of being a amazing warrior race. They're green. They can heal themselves and others, and they can combine their powers together to create a powerful Namekian, which all in all is the reason why they're on this list and why they're actually decently high on this list. But imagine the rest that are on this list that made it to the top 5, because that's where we're going now with number 5. So next on this list, which is number 5, is Apocalypians, which I believe are just new gods from the DC universe. How are they on this list? Why are they on this list? Well, the reason why they're on this list is because it is literally a war-torn planet. They only know about fighting. They're evil. And they've introduced a character that is far scarier than any other being on this list, for the most part. So the new gods were basically superpowered beings who were the equivalent to gods, obviously, and were in an all-out war. And then they created, because he fell into this pit of energy, created Darkseid. Now, Darkseid being one of the most powerful villains the Justice League has ever fought, and apparently he's a deity in itself. And the Darkseid we know and care about, I put that in quotations because do we really care about him? No. But he's just an awesome and badass character, just defeating the likes of Superman and others like that. So we have them fighting, and he then comes out on top as the superior ruler and tries to conquer the entire universe. So you're wondering, why isn't it higher on the list? Because the race themselves are not all that powerful on their own. They have a particular one who is stronger than all the others, which makes it a little less amazing as a race as a whole. That does not mean Darkseid is not an amazing character in the sense of being a destructive force. I'm just saying that everybody else on this planet does not live up to his standards. So that's kind of why I'm on the fence of putting them higher on the list. But at the same time, they are a badass group of aliens who have given the Justice League some trouble. So let's move on to number 4. Alright, so number 4 on this list is another DC race. And this particular race is one we know very fondly, which is called the Kryptonians. Now, for those of you who don't know who the Kryptonians are, I think you're living under a rock, because you definitely know at least one. Superman. Superman, Supergirl, General Zod. Am I missing anybody? Probably a bunch of them. There's a bunch of Superman men. There's Superboys. There's Supergirls, Superwoman. There's a bunch of them. So anyway, we have all those characters. But what about the Kryptonians as a whole? Why aren't they higher on this list if they've created such great beings? Well, realistically, on their planet, we see that they are just basically humans. To a full extent, they're just humans. I mean, because of the red star, their power, like, they don't get any powers because of it. So they're just basically walking human beings. Scientists, of course, and everything else. But it's not until they happen upon going to a solar system that has a yellow or a blue star. The reason why I bring that up is because that's where we get our Superman from. Our Superman was a Kryptonian that came to this planet by mistake, absorbed the sun's radiation, and became a superpowered being. Super strength, super speed, bulletproof skin, heat vision, ice breath, and everything else. And so did pretty much everyone else. And apparently it's the color of the sun that determines how powerful a Kryptonian is. So that's why they're not higher on this list, but they have the potential of, if they were a more conquering race, that they would be able to do so specifically in yellow and blue stars, which is amazing to think. But also we know that for a fact because obviously Superman and Supergirl have shown that, meaning that they've come in and have been a powerful opponent to face. But the other reason why they're not higher on this list is because I'm not a huge fan of Superman and the Kryptonians, because it's like nothing affects them and it's just a pain in the butt for me. That's just a personal thing, but they are still, cannot be denied, to being an awesome alien race because of their abilities. Granted, only when they're in a solar system that has a blue or a yellow sun. Now, it's different for those like General Zod, because he was put through a different, I don't want to say problem, but I guess a different, he went through the Phantom Zone, I believe it was called, and it messed up his DNA a little bit, which made him more powerful in a red star and weaker in a blue star, just so you're aware. Not that it really affects anything, but like I said, Kryptonians are number 4. So we're moving right on to the top 3, so let's get right to it. Okay, so number 3 on this list is an alien race from a movie. Was it considered a sci-fi movie or a horror movie? Probably a combination of the two. The name of the movie is in the title of this video, which is Alien. We are going to be talking about the Xenomorphs. So Xenomorphs are number 3 on this list. So overall, I'll talk about the bad stuff before I talk about the good stuff. The reason why they didn't make it to number 1 is because they really aren't the most intelligent creatures, but they are so awesome looking. Oh my gosh, they're like a primitive beast. They have acid blood. They have a mouth inside of a mouth. And how they reproduce, disgusting. They have these eggs that are laid by the queen, and these scorpion-like, spider-like creatures crawl out of it, jump onto their prey, inject the larva into the body. The larva eats inside, and out of the stomach rips the alien. And it turns into the xenomorph that we know. Disgusting, but awesome. I mean, it has created so many movies. Aliens, the entire franchise. Then they had the combined one with Alien versus Predator 1 and 2. And I believe they did a remake as well. The Xenomorphs are definitely an interesting race because they by themselves are pretty much just animals. Like equivalent to our like lions and tigers, let's say. in the sense that they just feed and move on. They're not really, and they're trying to increase their population, and they do it their own way. So the Xenomorphs are on this list for that reason. I mean, they have the claws, the razor teeth, they got the grotesque ability. I mean, they just got the nastiness, and I love it. That's why they're on this list, and that's why they're so high up. But their intelligence is what made them lacking on getting into the number 1 or 2 slot. So we got 2 left. Which one is going to be it? Let's find out. We're moving right on to number 2. So number 2 on this list is another DC race, and this race created, or a part of this race was formed, had created, I guess you would say is the best way to put it, one of the greatest villains that the DC universe has ever seen, Brainiac. So we're talking about the Kovians. Kovians. We're gonna go with that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Tell me how to pronounce it in the comments, because clearly I'm not good at it, which is fine by me. So the Kovians are a race that are highly intelligent. They try to create the greatest race of all time. So they're on this list because, well, they're awesome. In the sense of, like, they use intelligence and technology to increase their race's ability to survive. And what they do is, Brainiac took it to a whole nother level, because apparently he's a much higher intelligence, and then started to archive the entire universe, wanting to keep everything safe and deleting what was not considered even worth its time in the archives. So it created a being that was basically bent on global and multiversal domination. And the reason why I say created is because they genetically modified their race to make them even better, which is where Brainiac came from. Brainiac obviously went a little different than the rest of his group, for who knows what reason, but it's because of that he has also caused a huge problem for the Justice League. I mean, he's been able to hold his own against Superman and the entire Justice League, and still outsmart all of them and defeat them many a times. And they're on this list because I find them amazing. I find their use of technology and everything else just so outstanding that they deserve to be on this list and be so high on this list. But I know what you're thinking. If you like these guys so much, what the heck is number 1? I mean, how can there be a race that's better than that? Well, we're going to find out. Which is number 1 on this list. Number 1 on this list is one of my personal favorites throughout all of video games, movies, shows, comic books, anime, all of them. My favorite alien race of all time, the Saiyans, from the Dragon Ball Z universe. The Dragon Ball Z universe has an alien race called the Saiyans. Now, the Saiyans are a group of warriors who weren't always just warriors, but for the most part, they're known for their warrior race. They have monkey tails, and when the full moon happens, they become monkey form and start destroying the planet. Well, there was thought of a rumor about the legendary Super Saiyan, and our friend Goku was able to achieve that status, and then go beyond it twice to Super Saiyan Ascension and Super Saiyan Ascension Ascending, which is basically just Super Saiyan 1, which is the base form, Super Saiyan 2, which we saw in Cell Saga, and Super Saiyan 3 we saw in Buu Saga. So that's a thing. And they also have Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Blue, or aka Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan, and Super Saiyan Blue Evolved. So anyway, there's a lot of just all of that. But they are a powerful race. They are cunning in their fighting ability. And one of the biggest things is the more they fight, the stronger they become. So the more damage they sustain and live, their bodies actually get significantly stronger, which is why the Saiyans have increased recently into immense power because of their battles against opponents who are much stronger than them. That's why Goku was able to get so strong after his battle against Raditz. That was why he was able to get so strong after his battle against Vegeta. His battle against the Ginyu Force made him strong enough to fight Frieza in his base form against Frieza's final form. And then when Super Saiyan, that's how he was able to get to Super Saiyan 2 in the Cell Saga, although he technically didn't do it, but his son did. And then we have the Buu Saga, and all his fighting in the other world to become Super Saiyan 3. So the race is able to take so much damage and then use it to increase their abilities and their power. They have the ability to fly, they have energy projection, they have through what's called ki, they can manipulate it in a way that can create energy blasts, explosions, and things like that. And they're just awesome. I mean, the greatest alien race in my personal opinion. And that's why they're number one on this list. So let me know what you thought of this list. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think that there was a better alien race that I didn't mention? Please let me know in the comments. I'll be glad to hear it. As always, if you like the content you see, please like and subscribe below. And as always, you know what? This is Beastly Eel signing out. Have a good night.